Alrighty, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Town of Southbridge Joint Education Human Services Subcommittee / Town Council meeting in the Veterans Room at the Town Hall, Monday, December 12th, 2022, 7 p.m. Now, agenda item number 2 is roll call. Councilor Marchetti.
Present.
Councilor Ryan is absent. Citizen Member Gil Provost.
Present.
Citizen Member Ariel Ortiz.
Present.
And Councilor Montigny is present. Agenda item number 3. Consider and accept joint EHS Town Council meeting minutes of August 15th, 2022. I'd like to make or look for a motion to postpone that to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay. Provost Ortiz. Just a quick comment. If I'm going to reach out to Councilor Ryan to see if she has a minute for this. As it was not recorded video audio, she would be the only one that would have that at this time.
So it'll be the next 3?
All three of them?
Well, I have something different to say about the next one. But if no further discussion, all those in favor? Postpone. Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 4, consider and accept joint EHS Town Council meeting minutes of September 7th, 2022. I am also looking for a motion to postpone this to the next meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so with this one, this was recorded and it is on YouTube. And if we can't get anything from Councilor Ryan, I will go back and prepare those minutes. So if no further discussion, all those in favor? Postponement, unanimous of all present. Consider and accept agenda item number 5. Consider and accept joint EHS Town Council meeting minutes of October 3rd, 2022. I'm also looking to postpone
So moved.
to the next meeting.
Yep.
Second.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that one recorded?
That one was not recorded, so that will also go by the wayside if we can't get anything from Councilor Ryan. So, no further discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 6 is update from the school committee, and I just wanted to restate that the intentions when this committee was reorganized this summer was that we were going to have as much open lines of communication as possible with the school committee at the EHS subcommittee. And while we do appreciate your update as well, we're hoping that if there's anybody that has any questions that we could give them to Chair Shea here, and she could relay them to Dr. Villar, and hopefully get a response back at a meeting or in an email or something. So, Ms. Shea, welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
Martina Shea, 163 High Street, Southbridge. I don't even know where to begin. When I reached out to Dr. Villar telling him I was coming to this meeting and asking him if he had anything that he'd like me to bring forward, I know you did say you invited him.
Yes.
It doesn't seem that he's going to be here this evening. So I asked him, if there's anything that he wanted me to bring forward, and he said to me, remind the committee that your input is minimal and largely uninformed. He is the superintendent, he is the receiver, and he is the school committee, as he pointed out to me by quoting Chapter 69, Section 1K. The board shall designate a receiver for the district with all the powers of the superintendent and the school committee. So,
Well,
anything I say, you have to take as it might be incorrect or ill-informed.
okay. He said that about your board or this board or both boards. Look, no one was questioning Dr. Villar's power. I'm surprised that was his answer. Just, we're going to continue for this body to put discussion on public record that we have input, and I appreciate his blunt response to that. So I still value your opinion on that, so why don't you...
And you can be pretty sure you'll get it.
Yes, so...
But I'm just, this is
thank you.
what he told me to tell you, so I am telling you. Therefore, all the onus is off of me.
Okay.
I do have some pretty exciting news. This I am going to read again, but this is better news. This is, we have a brand new turnaround plan dated November of this year. It is on the website, so this is official. If anybody is interested in looking at it, you go to the school website, crawl across to About, and go down to Receivers Documents, and it will be there. This is part of the executive summary. Commissioner Jeff Riley is currently the head of, he's Dr. Villar's boss. Jeff Riley's boss is a man right now called Mr. Pizer. Mr. Pizer will be stepping down effective January 1st, and a new Secretary of Education will be coming on board. Who that is, I've tried all my sources and nobody's heard a word. Commissioner Jeff Riley and Receiver Jeff Villar recognize that the Southbridge Public School System has achieved significant progress before and even during the pandemic, but there is still much more to be accomplished due to the disruptive impacts throughout the community over multiple school years. The pandemic has prolonged the timeline for achieving the desired academic growth. Commissioner Riley and Receiver Villar are reviewing the turnaround plan for an additional 3 years, so it's been renewed for 3 years, to allow for sufficient time for the strategies put in place to reach full and even implementation across the school districts. The receiver will meet with the Southbridge Town Council and other town officials periodically to review the district's performance. The commissioner and the receiver will also meet with town officials to discuss potential pathways for exiting receivership. Again, that's for exiting receivership upon the expiration of the renewal plan. This discussion will include strategies and options for ensuring that new programs and policies implemented as part of the district's turnaround plan are fully preserved post-receivership. Exit from receivership will remain conditional upon satisfying the requirements of the receivership statutes and regulations, including that the district has achieved significant academic progress and positive change has been institutionalized to ensure growth. 3 years, it's actually in writing. But if you'll notice, there's only one town board that's mentioned, and that's the town council. So this board is going to be the, you're going to be in charge.
Well, it's interesting. Sounds a little contradictory to our input being uninformed and really not wanted. But then, yours. Oh, okay. Well, you know what, Ms. Shea, the fact that you're here giving your input to a town council board is what I was hoping for. So I do appreciate you adding it to the record of what you have to say, because I think that the school committee should have as big of a voice as they can during these times. Yeah. So I appreciate
You might want to add this to
it.
your
Yeah.
minutes.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you so much.
Because I think we'd like that in writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everywhere.
I believe Councilor Adams may have shared this on social media a couple weeks
Yes.
ago, and I did see it there. Okay. Is there a citizen member Shania? Citizen Shania.
I read the turnaround plan, and to be honest with you, even Dr. Villar's response to Ms. Shea about what the responsibilities are, I think is rudeness to the town. You have seen over the course of this whole receivership issue that Dr. Villar stays away from council as much as it can, sends his representatives, because it's like he can't take the heat in the kitchen, and it's put on other people. I myself personally was unhappy with the 3-year add-on, if you want to call it, to the receiver's plan, and at the end of 3 years, it always could be changed. If you look at the system in its whole, they're trying very hard, but morale has probably been at the worst I've ever seen from some people that I've seen in there. You have no long-term teachers that come into the system. You have the teachers coming out of college, and what do? Back in the day, when the school committee ran it, they gave these people a chance to build their career, to learn to be teaching. And it takes more than just coming out of college and start 1 year as a teacher. But in this time, we get the new people that come in, new college students come in to teach, and they're gone. In March, they get the pink slip. We'll be getting those pink slips coming up probably in March and April. This receiver is terrible to this community. He's terrible. He doesn't respond to council the way they should. He doesn't come to, you see him at budget time. I don't think I've seen him once or twice at subcommittee meetings, if he even came. But it's a terrible situation, and I can't wait for the day. I hope with the change of leadership at the State House, that's the first thing they do is give this community back its school. I think the people in the school committee and town council are very capable of turning this thing around. Very capable of turning it around. And his response to Ms. Shea is, you know what, it's terrible. I'd like to use words, but it's being recorded, so I won't. Thank you.
I appreciate you adding your opinion to the record, Mr. Shenya. Councilor Marquetti, then Councilor Lazo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. You were here at the September 7th meeting, as the last time we met. And you offered to answer questions and refer our questions to Dr. Villar. So some of the questions that were asked, one was how many teacher positions were given waivers? Did you ask the receiver that question?
I forwarded all of your questions by email the next morning to Dr. Villar.
Did he give you an answer on this one?
I believe the
I'm asking her.
Yeah. Well.
I don't remember.
All right. I'm gonna put no on that. The question was asked how many EA2s were hired.
How many what?
EA2s, education assistants.
Oh, yeah. If you look online, we're still looking for EAs, which if anybody out there is listening, being an educational associate in the school district is a very, very good job. That's how I started. I started in one of those times when instead of having no teachers, we had lots of teachers, and I started as an associate and got my foot in the door. You get to work with kids really much more on a one-to-one basis than the teachers do. And I found it one of the best jobs I had, and great mother's hours.
Another question was asked, do we have state numbers to compare to Southbridge?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not. That's available on the website. They remember I told you they wouldn't know until the middle of October,
Okay.
and I didn't look. I'm sorry. That would be my fault.
And also a question was asked about student reps on the school committee. Do we have a student representative?
We do not, and we have repeatedly asked Dr. Villar to have a student rep.
MCAS scores are low in spite of having the receiver for 4 years. Have you seen the updated MCAS scores?
This MCAS scores for last year are out. They're on the website.
And what do you think of them?
There's no word other than they're very low.
All right.
It's disappointing how low they are. They will take the MCAS again in the spring, and the numbers will come out early next fall for this year. I know that our district and all of the districts are saying that a lot of the lowered MCAS scores are the result of COVID and these kids not really missing a year and a half of education. But our scores are still significantly poor. Apparently, the like kindergarten and first grade are starting to show some turnaround, and surprisingly enough, 8th grade is starting to show some turnaround.
That's good. There was also some questions about the problem with the revolving door at the high school, and someone, Councilor Ryan asked, could we get a report on turnover? Did the receiver give you any kind of report on turnover at the school?
No, he has not, and the turnover continues.
And I suppose he didn't give you one on the difference between administration and teachers turnover? Okay.
Actually, this year there hasn't been a lot of administration turnover, but at the high school there have been a lot of staff turnover. Middle school is quite stable, doing quite well. In fact, Jeff House told us that they're fully staffed.
All right. You had mentioned signing bonuses at the meeting, and Counselor Steve asked, are teachers getting bonuses and then immediately leaving, or are they staggered?
I have asked Dr. Villar how they went, and I have not, I've not heard back on that one either. I assume that they are at least spread in some fashion.
All right. And there was also a question about the master plan. Have they done anything with the master plan? Where do we stand with that?
I don't know about the master plan. I went to see Dr. Villar last week, and Councilor Adams was going to go, and I asked him if he would check on the master plan. I don't know if he did.
All right. There were also questions about retention rates, and if there is a retention plan.
Retention rate, I just saw it. We used to be in the high 80s, low 90s. We're in the 60s now.
And is there a retention plan?
As far as I know, there is no retention plan.
All right.
We're doing a hiring plan, and I specifically asked Dr. Villar at our meeting if he had some plans to try to maintain staff, perhaps moving some money into senior staff, and he said not at this time.
Okay. There was some questions about training for principals, and if there was any diversity in the training of the principals. Did you ask Villar about that at all? No?
I asked him all of your questions, and I wish I had something to write with, since I don't even write with. I can't write them down. I'll get them from you before I leave, though,
All right.
so I can text them to him again.
Okay. And finally, at our last meeting, in answer to numerous questions about teachers leaving and retaining rate, you said it was very difficult to hire teachers due to COVID, retirement, and low pay, because a lot of the teachers are attracted to industry, which has higher pay. Part of the problem you also said was location, schools not near public transportation or universities. Then last week you sent me an email from the teachers union, and the teachers union seems to have a different take on teacher retention shortage. They said they wanted to work on a humane working condition. What does that mean? What's wrong with the working condition at the high school?
I'm sure that they could answer that better than I can, because I am not there. I really don't know. I know that staff has been moved from one job to another. I know they had a very difficult time with last year's principal at the high school, but she's gone, so I don't know whether that's floating over to this year. I truly do not know what they mean by that, because I'm not there.
They also said culture of blame. Do you know what that's about? No?
Again, I'm not there. Culture of blame usually means that whatever's going wrong is somebody else's fault, but I don't know who's getting blamed, and I don't know whose fault anything is, because I truly we truly do not hear anything about what is going on day to day in the schools. We truly do not, I have not physically been in the high school. I went to one play last year, and this year they had a parent meeting at the middle school, and there were about 4 or 5 parents and myself. And it was a middle school, and Jeff House, was very positive and upbeat about his building. And whenever any questions arose about the high school, were very,
All right. Well, I mean, you did send this email to me, so I thought it was addressed to you, and then you forwarded it to me.
that is from the teachers' union,
Right.
not from me. I know nothing about it. I just shared it because I thought you would probably want to know.
A couple more questions.
I have not, I didn't know it was coming out.
Right.
I did not talk to anybody about it. So I know what you know.
All right. I would like to hear what they have to say about this. I mean, what do they mean by it?
I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if you invited them if they might come.
All right. Also, I got an email that Riley was at the Southbridge High School last week.
Yes, he was.
Were you informed of that?
No,
No, nobody was informed of that.
no. I was not informed. The union president was not informed. Nobody on the town council that I know of was informed. It was the day after the teacher's memo came out. And the only picture I saw was of Jeff Riley with the cutest little kindergartner.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Marquet, for your questions and concerns. I just want to let you know some of those questions were answered at the end of the September meeting they had, the school committee meeting. He kind of touched upon some of those waiver numbers during his quarterly presentation. The answers were kind of incomplete. It was almost dancing around the answers. Councilor Lazo?
I'd just like to thank Martina for coming in front of the subcommittee, and I'd like to thank the school committee for standing in there and doing whatever they can do perception-wise of having a full committee. I know who Jeff Villar is, I know how he operates. Dictatorships don't work, he'll learn it too. When he gets back to a democracy, then it'll work better than what it is. The way that game is played is you have to be taken over if you're a level 4. We did not have one school level 4. Our high school was a level 1. Our middle school was in tough shape. It was a level 3. But we got taken over, and I said, once you get taken over, no one's gonna wanna work here, no one's gonna wanna come here. Created an animosity, a turnover, the revolving door. The veteran teachers were put under the microscope, they gutted the union contract, and everybody fled. Going forward, I have to say, if you look for a silver lining, I thought the silver lining right now is Jeff House. I have heard nothing but good things about him. He has the lowest turnover. I heard it was like 1 teacher he lost. He's a hands-on administrator. He's doing the job that everybody thought an administrator should do. But when you look at the track record of Villar decisions, he takes a person from an alternative program, makes it a principal. Never been in a classroom, never been an administrator, never been a teacher. And fires her the day before school opens up. First of all, I've never heard of firing somebody the day before school opens up. Usually you open up for a smooth opening, and then if there's a problem, the person goes off in the sunset. I've never seen a more knee-jerk reaction by a professional as Jeff Villar. But going forward, he's just, I don't blame him for it. He's getting paid. I'd like to stay here another 3 years too. we can talk about it, the state controls it, we don't have control over it. The new governor, I think, might look at receivership differently. The new commissioner might be, I mean, I'm optimistic. I hear from the politicals that, hold on, Southbridge, help is coming. So, you know, moving forward, I just gotta say, if there's a band, I haven't met the guy yet. I wanna go to the middle school and just meet this guy. I've seen many administrators when I was on school committee. A lot of good ones, some bad, but this guy here, when the parents talk to you as a counselor, they come to you and they explain the situation their kid was in, and how this guy handled it. He's a strategist when it comes to kids. Villar is not. Villar is not a strategist. It's more of a reaction and power. As you see the letter that is forwarded of what Martina's powers are, like we need to be recited on what the powers of the school committee is. We already know that. But you gotta interject a dictatorship. So, you know, I know that I have a stronger opinion because I was involved in the early days and saw what happened, and I thought it was unjust. And moving forward, I think people like Jeff House are the building blocks to that turnaround. But you mark my word, Jeff Villar will make a move and blow this guy up. I'm gonna make that prediction. He's gonna let him take over the whole middle high school. The building wasn't designed for one administrator. All the educators in Boston and Department of Ed and Southbridge Building Committee, everybody designed the building to be managed a certain way. Everybody saw it except Jeff Villar sees it differently. We're gonna see how it works out. I'm just worried about Southbridge and the kids. People will come and go from out of town, but we're here, we own it, and we're gonna continue to own it. But I gotta say, if there's one thing, Jeff House is the role model administrator that I think is a major building block in the toughest level of education. The middle school is the toughest on discipline, the toughest on education. Teachers have, that's the real rough. We come into elementary, I hear about certain things going on at West Street, you know, the rumblings, it's always on the internet. But you don't hear that coming out of House's building. I just hope that he doesn't get overwhelmed if he takes the whole facility over, because I don't think it'll work, and I still think he's the champ. He's what I always call a rock star. And I think going forward, you know, a 3-year, let's see what happens after this 3-year. We're gonna have a conversation, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I'm sitting back and I said, what's changed between the time they took it over and now? You wanna make the statistics dance, what, to say this or that? The fact of the matter is, it's not going well. The bright light is at the middle school, when the building blocks actually should be at the elementary schools. You know, that's where you learn how to read, write, and your mathematics, the basic building blocks. When you get to the middle school and you can't read, something's broke down before it gets to the middle school. The curriculum, the coordination of the curriculum from pre-K up to 12. I mean, 6 years and you can't get it right? You can't blame Southbridge on this one.
Nope.
Thank you.
That was well said, thank you. If there's anybody else that has a comment.
Well,
Mr.
just
Shane?
one more comment.
Yeah.
Kind of going on Council Basil's statement. Here's when they go from elementary school to, you know, like from Leesford Road, to West Street and those kind of things. It's a shame when you have a school like West Street, the continuing problems they have with fire setters, false alarms, and kids in elementary school hitting and beating up teachers to the point where police have to come into the school and it's kept secret, not reported to the school committee or not reported anywhere. Same thing with the high school. They had that rumble in there a couple weeks ago. That was an outright rumble. Called in extra police, even brought in the community college cop that's there to assist them. And that stuff's not reported. It's a shame when you hear about it as an elected official, either on Facebook or social media or some kind of thing. But the schools, it's not working at that level. And when you have the guy at junior high, he's going to be overwhelmed. And so what he does in junior high, when it gets to the high school, it's all lost. So Mr. Villar's system is not working. And it should be, at some point in time, council should say, hey, enough's enough. And either go to court, fight the educational educators that are further up the chain, or do something. The school committee and council are trying very hard. They give the best they can, but they get pushed back and pushed back and pushed back by this receiver. He doesn't respect his community. He doesn't respect his leadership in this community, the elected officials in this community, and he surely doesn't respect the teaching staff in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. If nobody else has anything to say,
I have one more thing to say.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I have met Mr. Villar, and I'm not crazy about receivership, but I never thought he was really an evil person that you're making him out to be. I don't think I would want to blame him for a fight at the high school. I just wouldn't blame him for that. I think I would like to see receivership end, but I'm not going to play this boogeyman thing here with Dr. Villar. I'm just not going to play that. We got to work with the guy, and so let's work with the guy, and hopefully we can end receivership somewhat sooner rather than later.
It begins at the top.
Thank you.
It really begins at the top. It's no different than you as a council blames the manager for everything that's going wrong in this community. It begins at the top.
When did I do that? Did I do
Just
that?
now.
Okay.
Just now.
All right. Thank you very much. Councilor Adams and Councilor Lazo.
Thank Councilor Lazo.
Okay, Councilor Lazo.
Sorry.
I want something for the record. George, calm down.
Yeah.
But anyways, for the record, I don't think Villar is evil. I don't think Villar is a bad person. I don't hate Villar. I run on performance. When you see a track record of things happening in your community, this isn't like this receiver got here yesterday. How many years has this receivership been here? And part of it is before Villar.
Correct.
So as the thing moves forward, what I look at, the benchmarks, the same benchmarks they used to take us over. If we use those same benchmarks that they used, we should take it back over from them.
Right.
Performance. And I turned around, I look and I go, okay, you want a good high school, you want a strong leader, you take a person out of an alternative program that's never been in a classroom, and you give her the principalship, and she lasts 11 months, a year, whatever. I turn around and I go, that's just bad judgment, bad management, and then when the time comes, and you know, you batten down the hatches, you go into the front office up there, it's like everybody like can't meet with anybody privately. They all have to be, well, you're a witness for me, I'm gonna be there. You know, we have a finance company and a finance director that tell me. I stay away from the district, I don't go in. Because I have the experience to critique what's going on. Because we had a level 1 high school. We saw the school system that was being run. And the thing is, the state wanted a level 4, they just waived it level 4 on us. We built the middle high school together, a level 3 and a level 1. They must have added it together, made a 4. So for me, it's like performance, guys, not personalities. Villar, by writing that letter, is not extended any olive branches. And Riley, when he comes to Southbridge, he doesn't want to come to the council. Doesn't want to be with Scott Lazo as he spoke to Jack Joe. Oh, now it's personal. Now it's personal. I'm not personal about it. The stats speak for themselves. MCAS scores, wonderful. If you think that's good, you keep hoping, because it's not going to happen. Thank you.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I agree with Councilor Marquetti. I don't think the guy's an evil guy. I know Councilor Lazo kind of just clarified that he doesn't think that way. And whatever it may be, right? I hear it back here at the same time. I do know the school was underperforming this district for 11 years before that. We can go on all these details, and it's great. The point is, it's the first time the turnaround plan actually showed some signs of life as far as the town taking back over, which I'm very happy with. Now, you're right. In 3 years, they could change it up, whatever it may be. But in those 3 years, what are we doing about it? Are we working together to try to figure this thing out? Can we, whatever it may be, and get, yeah, absolutely. Get Desi's ass down here and meet in front of the town council, or whatever it may be, or at a meeting. I agree. They owe us a meeting. He promised us a meeting in the fall, winter time. No problem. Got it. So work on that. But it's the first time we saw a turnaround plan that actually showed something. Now, is it going off the same numbers they did 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago? You know, it depends on who you talk to, because I hear other things about, I don't know if he's a doctor, about, say, Mr. House. I've heard different things about the teachers. I've heard the rotating plan. It depends on who you talk to that day. It's like talking to a good lawyer, right? Nothing, no pun intended there, town manager, but you talk to one lawyer, you talk to another one, you get two different answers maybe, you know? All I'm trying to say is, this is a good thing, that the fact that this turnaround plan showed some promise and some light at the end of the tunnel for our town. Another thing is, town council has a responsibility. Southbridge Public School, the school board has another responsibility. I'll be the first one to say it. We've been out in receivership for a long time. And that school board, and no disrespect to them at this point in time, but prepared to take over the school district right now, tomorrow? Absolutely not.
No,
So,
we're
but
not.
we've been working with Ms. Shea and the association and trying to figure out, get some classes, get the school board back on board. What numbers they're going off of, you know, I guess as good as mine sometimes. It all depends on what numbers you look at. Today, tomorrow, states, schools, what it was 11 years ago, what it was 5 years ago. This is a good sign for the town. This also gives us a good sign to work harder, to work with the state, make sure we're successful when we take that over, hopefully in 3 years, to bring economic development back to this town. So, and quite a few other things that can happen in this town. So I'm willing to work with Dr. Villar, I'm willing to work with the state and the representatives. And you know, it takes time, it really does. Maybe 6 years, or 11 years, 12 years, 20 years, whatever it may be, but we gotta get this school system back under control of the town of Southbridge. Period. That's all I got. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Just a
Councilmember
closing
Butler.
statement. Dave, with all respect, when you say the school committee's not ready, I'm gonna disagree. Because that's all the school committee is a bunch of citizens from Southbridge, much like the councilors. Were we all prepared to be a councilor? No, we became a councilor, we learned, and we governed, and we took the recommendation of the town manager, took the recommendation of department heads. That's what school committees did. I'm not an educator. I was on school committee. When Dale Hanley came up with a curriculum plan, the curriculum coordinator came in. And the curriculum coordinator would do the presentation. So for me, I looked at it as, I'm sitting here saying, wait a minute, you don't want Southbridge residents. I mean, is there some class here today? Some of our best school committee people were just people off the street, mothers, doctors, lawyers that were serving on the committee, business people. And what they did was they sat a 7-member board and they listened to the experts like a democracy. And then they worked together and they had arguments and they disagreed, much like we do at TM. But that's all gone. It's one single, I'm in charge, I make the call, I can hire and fire, I've got the union contract. There's no negotiating in good faith. When you go into receivership, you can go in and do what you have to do to whatever you have to do to make this district turn around. Great. And for me, I agree, there were some bright spots. But for the time they've been here, come on, and it just asked, final thing, TM, I gotta tell you, and the counselors have fully funded schools. It's not a money issue, it's a management issue, and it's failed. To me, it's failed. I know what a school committee looks like. They're not experts in education. They're volunteers from the community that work hand in hand with the experts, such as the principals, and Ed Reform was very explicit on what the duties were on Ed Reform on school committees. I lived all that. And now I sit here and I hear, oh, well, this is gonna be like that. And I look, I go, what happened to a democracy where the actual citizens of the community sit on the board and work hand in hand with the people they hire, and they negotiate the contract? I just don't see it working the way the design is right now. The design is a terrible design. Take Villar out of it. I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about the design of a receivership. I hope to God the governor abolishes it immediately with the new commissioner. That would be what should happen if there's any type of democracy left in our blood. That's the problem. Not the guy. You can take somebody else and give him Villar's power. It's still not going to work that way. You have to have in good faith dealing. You have to have those discussions where you're on the opposite side of the fence to check and balance, verify, oversight. There's none of that. What oversight does the school district have? School committee sits there like potted plants. And I respect them for showing the state that we do have people that want to serve. But I've been on school committees that didn't sit like that. They were actually involved and engaged with the professionals. They were the ones that told us about curriculum. I never really understood curriculum, and I sat down with the school committee. I could write curriculum after Dave Zangi and all these guys. They used to come forward. They were educational experts. Those were the people that ran the district, were the professionals. But that, guys, it's a design. You can talk politics, you can talk personalities. Vlad's not the problem. The design is the problem. And it enables him to continue to be the problem. Thank you.
Did you want to say something?
I just want to clarify something.
Martinez.
Council Mazza brings up a good point. I wouldn't call it a school board potted plants, but because some are dead and some are, alive or just barely kicking sometimes. But that's not the school board. I'm talking about potted plants. But I will state this is when I'm talking about working with others, the association, the school board has been out of the loop for 6 years now. And you're right. I went to other counselors to learn how to be a counselor. Robert's rules, you still can't get all of it right all the time, but you get that expertise. I'm trying to figure out the expertise from the school board side, and once that rotation comes back into it, being able to learn from your elders or younger people, somebody that's been there a little bit longer, that's what I'm talking about, is to get them the education they probably need to do the budgets, to hire somebody on, to figure some of these things out. And it'll just take time, and that rotation period is going to have to do it every few years. And that's how the school board will get back into the strength that one once was. And that's just a point of clarification. Thank you.
So I'm going to go back to Ms. Shea for a moment, and then I see Councilor Rivas and the town manager. So Ms. Shea?
We do need to be trained. We have not worked with a budget. We have never made a simple transfer. We do not have any idea what curriculum we're using other than a couple of names of companies that we work with, the PBIS, Hilly, a couple of other companies, but we have no idea what the curriculum is because we've never had a presentation on it, even as both counselors said. You people, you work with the town manager, he works with you and keeps you informed of what's going on. The fire chief works with you and keeps you informed. We're starting at ground zero. It's not because we're potted plants, although it's, some days it does feel that way. We just don't have the basic information. Usually, like in a committee, you have some people who've been there a while, some people who've been there less time, and the new people, and you all, progress, you learn from each other. But we don't have that base. So yeah, we do. We are starting to work with the Association of School Committees to get the training that we need. So we are trying to move forward.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. But it's like you're left in the dark in some respects, so you're not able to begin in certain spots. Councilor Rivas?
So I agree with some elements of both the previous speakers. I do feel that the law is flawed. In essence, if a community can't get out of receivership if the community is not involved in the progress. Student voices are invisible in this whole process, which is appalling to me as someone who is an educator and who works with students. It blows my mind that isn't the approach. The history is there were reasons why we got here. We got here because it wasn't working, and families were asking for this, but without knowing that the law itself doesn't allow or doesn't, imagine that a receiver coming in wouldn't work with the community or work with the school committee. And in some ways, Dr. Villar has worked with, with the community in certain aspects. But I do feel that it is his responsibility to help the school committee get to the point where they are knowledgeable. And that, again, as Ms. Shea stated, as a town council, we work with the town manager. We ask him questions. We ask department heads come in and do presentations. That is how we learn what our, about our role and all of the expertise that they have to share with us. But if, as a receiver, those departments are not coming in and are not sharing their expertise, someday there isn't going to be receivership. It can't go on forever, and it is doing our community a disservice not to have a Democrat. I totally agree with that, Councilor Lazo. Not to have our community. Those are our students. They're our families. They're my relatives. They're your relatives. The teachers are committed to helping our students. It is not an easy job, as some of us know. And it is a disservice and it is disheartening that Dr. Villar doesn't help the school committee get to that point where they understand a budget, where they're able to ask questions about the budget, where they're getting presentations from different departments. I don't think that's a heavy lift. I don't think he's evil. I agree with Councilor Adams. I don't think he's evil. But I do think that the law is not strong enough in compelling the receiver to do what needs to be done. And in that case, we're going to be flailing as a community. Even at some point when the receivership is gone, we are going to be flailing because those elements are not there.
Thank you, Councilor Rivas. Mr. Manager?
Absent that mentorship that Ms. Shea was referring to, and she did touch upon it, what I was going to suggest is the Mass Association of School Committees. Having been, like many of you folks, an elected official, the Mass Association of Select Boards, Board of Selectmen, they have handbooks, training, policies, and orientation programs that can help people get up and running. I mean, you've all indicated it'd be great if you could get it here, but to get some outside input, if you don't have the mentorship, I'm sure you can find some of that and get started and then find people through there that would help come in and mentor. But it's just a thought.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Councilor Adams?
Yeah, it's just, my fellow councilor, we got me all passionate about things. So real quick, I did want to say, I believe when Councilor Taylor brought up about the master plan, I believe it went out for quotes, did it not? I think it went out. Yeah, so that's where it's at right now. And then, when they talked to the union the other day, based on that letter that was submitted, they asked the union leaders, what are your suggestions? And according to Dr. Villar, there were no answers. They didn't have any answers for them. I did ask that question, and I did ask the other question that Ms. Shea had asked me to do. So I just wanted to throw that out because I forgot to mention that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lazo?
Quick question
Councilor.
to Committee Member Shea. When was the first time you served on the school committee?
Back before the crust of the earth cold.
Wow.
Would that
I
be
was in my, I was
somewhere
in my,
the 70s?
I was in my 20s, yeah, middle 70s.
Mid-70s, okay. So you were on school committee when it was some sort of normalcy at that time.
Oh, yeah,
How many years have you taught in the system?
25.
Okay, so you've served on a school committee, and you've been 2.5 decades as a teacher, and now you're retired, I assume, and now you give back to the community by getting on this board. Why doesn't Villar sit down with you, educator to educator? You know what a school committee member does. You've already served 2 or 3 terms. You have 25 years in the system. You've lived through ed reform. You've lived through MCAS testing. You've lived through a lot of change in the educational process. You would be one, if I was the receiver, I would call to the front office and say, you have the experience, I want you to come into this office and let's do this together. That's the design that's missing. It goes right back to dictatorship, not teamwork and democracy, where you disagree and you hammer the tin and you come out with an answer. You don't have to, that's not happening. You're just having one man with the answer. It doesn't work. Thank you.
Yeah, and to echo some of that, I would add too that the vice chairman has a similar experience being elected official and former Southbridge educator. So I do think that you guys are well equipped over there at the time, but with continuing on MASC and all these other suggestions can only make you even more prepared. Does anybody else have anything left to add? Because I don't want to prolong this too much. If you do, please.
Just one quick thing.
Yeah.
According to the turnaround plan, it is the town council that they're looking to take leadership in restoring the district. I would ask you, Chairman Daniels and the town manager, to begin to work together to come up with a plan that will get us positioned for the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we just, we start in 3 years, it will be at least 3 years down the road.
Right. No, I do agree that it's time for the town council to do just that. And but I don't want to leave the school committee in the dark. I'd like you to be there as much as
We
possible.
would like to
I
be
think we
there,
all-
but as the
Well-
document says.
Of course. Well, we'll continue to invite you to be a part of what we can. But if there was anything left for me to give to you, I know that this idea has been floated around at times of an old school, old style walkthrough of town councilors invited. I can remember working for the district, and Chairman Moriarty and Vice Chairman Carrasco used to come in every now and again, and they were invited at the past. And I've spoken to school employees at central office that have said that they would love for the town council to get the chance to see Jeff House in action. We talk about him so much. So if you could just pass along that we would love
Doctor,
wonderful.
simply call his office. He is very willing to have the town council do walkthroughs. He consistently says that.
Okay, thank you for that information. Yeah.
Aaron DeMello and I have gone through the high school.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, if there's nothing left from anybody, I appreciate you coming, Ms. Shea, and I will continue myself to keep you in the loop anyways of anything that goes on here. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we go to adjournment, the town manager brought something to me, so I'm looking for a motion to suspend the rules to add agenda item 6A, discussion of the town manager's recommendation regarding a solid waste consultant proposal for an amount not to exceed $15,000.
So,
Second.
Okay, Mr. Manager?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, Monty, members of the council. The reason I brought this up, we have a meeting on the 19th, and I want to just get this before council because we are running, on a timeline with our curbside. When I went in October to the Mass DEP contracting session, which was sponsored in part by KP Law, there was a lot of discussion about how to prepare for situations like this. And one of the communities indicated that they had obtained the services of a solid waste consultant who helped them fine-tune their RFP, go out and talk to the various vendors, and help them through the process and the transition and bringing it up. Now, I know we have some services from Ms. Congdon, who we received a grant, and her forte is the pay-as-you-throw. Ms. Smith and I have taken an RFP that had been worked on in the previous committee I have, and we've been fine tuning that for us, and we have a draft. But this individual who I put the proposal before, he has worked for several towns, primarily in southeastern Massachusetts. He's the former CEO of Weston and Sampson. He's apparently authority on wastewater and solid waste. And he's walked several communities through this process, including one similar to ours where they have a landfill. They keep closing it down and transitioning to getting their own first-time curbside contract. I did speak to the people who referred him to me back in October, the former town manager in Marion, as well as the town manager, her administrator in Wareham, and they both said that this individual was worth his weight in gold, so to speak, helping them through the process. And he does work with the town attorneys, but he's still the chief development officer for Weston and Sampson, so he's still affiliated. I did forward the proposal to Chairman Montigny as well as a bio that I want to say he's a professional engineer, and I believe his degree, at least one of them, is from Northeastern. But given that we have a shrinking window and we want to get this done and we need somebody to help us with the negotiations, I thought it might be prudent to have the discussion. I did speak to Ms. Harnois, and there are monies in the Board of Health's Specialized Services account. I did speak to Mr. Wozniak about it, and he thought it might be a worthwhile discussion. So I wanted to at least bring it here to start the dialogue and entertain any questions.
Okay, before I go any further, I'd just like to ask a question to Chairman Daniel or any other counselors. Were you supposed to vote on that motion in a second to suspend the rules to actually add it to the agenda before discussing? Or, because we didn't vote just then, we just...
You vote to waive the rules to put it on the agenda item on the agenda.
So we should have voted before asking the manager for the discussion. So why don't we, for the sake of that, take a roll
Because
call?
you have to create it to discuss it.
Right, we'll take a roll call vote then to have suspend the rules. There was a motion, second by Provost and Ortiz. So, Councilor Marchetti?
No.
Councilor Citizen Member Provost?
Yes.
Citizen Member Ortiz?
Yes.
Councilor Montigny, yes. Councilor Ryan is absent. Okay, so that's 3-1. Okay, and then I'll take a motion to actually discuss it.
So moved. A second.
There we go. Okay, thank you. All right. Does anybody have any comment on
Just a
the?
quick question.
Yeah.
What was the recommendation of the health inspector?
He
Was
thought
he
it might be
favorable?
worthwhile. I mean, he's new. I mean, my feeling, you know, we've talked about this, and Ms. Smith and I have been talking. There's been escalations in cost. We're looking at a very expensive endeavor. You know, the estimates that Mr. Pelletier put together last spring were between 1.6 and 1.8 million dollars, and it could escalate higher with inflation. So, Councilor Marchetti, when I talked about it earlier, asked me outside, could I do it? Well, I can help you with the RP. I could probably have some of these conversations, but I don't know the ins and outs of curbside. So we have things running in parallel. We're looking at the pay-as-you-throw as a funding source, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have a contract with the hauler. How you pay for it, whether it's individuals, you know, well, it'll be contingent, the way we talked about it. But if the town can come up with a funding mechanism, we would have the contract. If that doesn't work out, everybody's going to do individuals. But I would want somebody with some professional expertise in our corner, helping us to try and negotiate the best deal possible and knowing the particular players. And what I was told by these other towns is this individual went out and helped the town get some quotes and helped negotiate, and said that the numbers that this individual came back to the town were almost identical to the bids that they wound up getting after the fact, and think that they believe that this person was instrumental in helping them to get a better deal and advising them through the process. So I thought it would be a worthwhile discussion just to have to see what you folks want to think.
But he seemed favorable on it?
Yeah, we could get him to show up on Monday night if you want to get his input.
I mean, I think your recommendation is good enough for me as far as that's not a lot of money spent for a big endeavor. I really would like to, if the health inspector's on board
Let me get
or
a,
not on board, you know what I'm saying?
well, we had a very short conversation. I explained to him what I was trying to do and told him that the finance director said that they had the funds, and I said, you know, given that right now it's just Miss Smith and I, and she's part-time, I said, I think it would be in our best interest to get some assistance, and he didn't see an issue with it. But if you would like a more detailed explanation or a memorandum, I can talk to him tomorrow about coming.
Just a recommendation, I mean, I'd like to know where he's coming from.
Okay.
Council Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. As I spoke to you earlier, I believe Weston and Sampson worked for Casella for many, many years. I know that they were around when we were having the problems with the contamination up there at the landfill. And so I would want to know more about this person before we hire him. I would want to see if he was, as far as I can tell, just Googling him, he was working for that company. He was the CEO
Yes.
at the time when they were advising, or they were the consultants for Casella. So I would want to know more about that before I would entertain voting for this person. I think it's a good idea. I'm not saying I'm against the idea. I'm just saying I want to know more about this person. I don't know if we have to do it right now. We haven't even sent out the mailer yet. We finalized it this week. It's going out in January. I don't know what the rush is.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea. I'm not saying it's not. But this guy I have questions about. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
I guess I don't disagree that we have some time, but we don't have a lot of time. And that's all I wanted, you know, the idea had come up. I've been trying to get a hold of these people that I spoke to in October. One of the town administrators was changing towns, told this particular consultant, he reached out to me last week after we've been playing phone tag. So I asked him if he could, in the interest of time, make me a proposal. And, you know, I just didn't want to wait too long. So.
All right.
But if you need more information, I'm sure we could try and get you some. I'll work on that between now and Monday too, and if you want to hold on.
Council Lazo?
You're gonna be curious, are you considering maybe they're too close to Casella?
I think he is. Yeah.
Okay, no, valid point, a little homework wouldn't hurt.
Well, that being said, I don't mind it. You know, it doesn't even say what company in the motion we made, so I don't mind bringing it to council, to having a little more homework done, as the previous speaker said. And I also agree with previous speakers' sentiments that it is not a lot of money for something that's such a big endeavor. So, anybody else have anything to say for discussion? Mr. Shenya?
It's really not a lot of time.
I agree.
It really isn't. Mailing's going out in January.
I agree.
People's gonna respond to the mailing, I would hope. RFP has to be read. RFP has to go out, through the council. Then the decision's gonna be made where you're gonna go with that RFP, you're gonna award a contract, I mean, you still got, and 24 is coming quick. So there's really not a whole lot of time to act, so the sooner you can get some professional help to assist this community, I think the better off we are. I agree with him that we should look at the person, his involvement with a local trash company, but I don't even agree with that somewhat, because just because they did work for them doesn't mean they're gonna be bad for the community. And it's no different than, you know, insurance companies that favor somebody else and didn't do well. I just think, let's look at their whole picture and then move as quick as we can, because it's really not that far away.
Thank you. Councilor McKinney?
I have heard that one before. Just because they work for Casella doesn't mean they're gonna screw us over, and then in the end, we got somebody who ended up doing something that did not work out for this community.
So because
I'm not
Casella doesn't
opposed
buy,
I'm not opposed to hiring someone to do it. I just want more information about this person, that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Councilor Lazo?
I agree with Council Marquetti, a little homework wouldn't hurt us. There's two trains of thought when you deal with somebody that dealt with another company. I know you're not a fan of Casella's.
No. Come off like that.
Well, your track record shows that. But anyways, moving forward, when you hire somebody that's good at what they do, usually somebody like Casella hires them because they are good at what they do. So usually what you try and do is you try and get them on your team. Not that you're gonna give anything to Casella, but he's a heavy hitter if he's working for Casella. And that's what I would want in my corner, as a heavy hitter, to turn around and to work with our manager and say, you know, well, I would, just as long as he's not on Casella's payroll, I'm good. But I mean, I think he's an independent consultant. Let's look at him and do the homework you're saying. Because I think I'm not against what you're saying, Tim, as far as going out there and getting somebody. But I think he brings out a valid point that, you know, when we did our water deal was an example of, you know, we weren't paying attention to who was sitting at the table before, during, and after, and we end up paying Charlton money. So it's a little, do your homework and let's not stumble over our own feet.
And that's a perfect example.
Exactly.
Mr. Manager?
Just a couple of pieces of information. You know, we are looking at a lot of different things, Ms. Smith and I, and I've been calling around trying to look at different ways that you might bid this. You could bid it where the hauler does your tipping and you could try and do independent tipping and negotiate those fees separately. But what I'm running into, as you may know, they're limiting the number of landfills that are out there. The burn facilities are at capacity, and what I think we may find that we're going to have to work really with a hauler that has existing capacity in one of these facilities, because it's going to be easier for them to get it than us. But Casella has already been doing the routes here. They already have the trucks here. Don't be surprised if we go out. It's the most, you could get the most favorable bid from them because they're already here and want the town's business. And you know, you may have to, you know, you may have, I wasn't here for it, so I can't comment, but you may have hard feelings, but they might wind up making the best offer to the town in the end.
Well, fool me once, shame on you.
All I'm saying is you gotta keep an open mind when you open those bids when they come back. That the person who's currently here, who's been servicing the community and knows it and has the trucks and the routes, they might wanna make the best offer to you. So, just something to think about.
Thank you.
It's a good point. Mr. Shednier?
Mr. Manager, the thing that you're looking for, the 15,000, that's not awarding a contract, that's telling you how to get to that contract, am I correct?
The 15,000 would be his proposal is for not to exceed 15,000 to work on the variety, you know, all the things delineated in his proposal, helping us with the RFP negotiating and things. So, does that answer you?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Well, with no further discussion then, I'd like to take a vote by a show of hands. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right.
And I will try and
3-1.
give you some additional information, Mr. Chairman, for you and the council about Mr.
Sure.
Scipio and his, maybe whatever work he may have done with Casella during his history of West Sampson.
Right, a few days of good digging, and then perhaps the health inspector being present as well too. I think we could all come to an informed decision Monday night that makes sense for everybody. Other than that, it brings up agenda item number 7, adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous, all present. Thank you, everybody.